Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the JK Show. I've been not podcasting for almost a month, and it's so good to be back. I have today a two times TEDx speaker, and he also does stand up comedy. He talks about resilience, inclusion, and a lot of other things to global companies. Joze Piranian, welcome to the JK Show, man.
Thank you, Jean, for having me. And just to let everyone know, whether you are watching this or listening to this, I have a stutter. Your internet is working just fine.
You know, actually, would you say that stuttering is your superpower now? In a way?
In a way, it is definitely something that went from being a liability
Yeah.
to an asset.
Yeah. So before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to give like a quick introduction about yourself, maybe, and talk more in detail about what you do.
So I was born and raised in Lebanon. I grew up avoiding speaking out of the fear of being judged for sounding different. As you know, the societies in the Middle East can be a bit more challenging on someone if they do deal with obstacles.
Yeah.
And I ended up choosing silence as the defense mechanism from the world until about 4 or so years ago, when I started undergoing a very unexpected transformation that resulted, as you said earlier in the intro, Jean, delivering 2 TEDx talks, performing stand-up comedy in 3 continents and 4 languages. I stutter in 6 different.
Yeah, I saw this clip once. It was hilarious. And by the way, Jose, I wanted to kick off this podcast by asking you, what was your aha moment? But then I was scrolling on your Instagram and saw that you posted, I think it was your most recent post. You said that there is no aha moment. So I don't want to like spoil the post now. I want you to talk about it because I really, really liked it.
Yeah, with the beautiful coincidence that this would be one of your questions. So I'm sometimes asked about the turning point that made the radical change possible, and I thought about it and realized that my biggest aha moment in life has been that there are no aha moments in life. Quite often, and I'll explain a bit, quite often we want our transformation to occur in a singular moment, a singular breakthrough, when something just clicks as we go and run under the rain with dramatic music playing in the background. I have not found that to be the case. For me, it's been what I've begun calling millions of micro moments of bravery during which I've repeatedly done what I found uncomfortable.
But there has to be some sort of a moment where you decide to go on this multi-million micro actions that you take. No, there is this trigger, I think.
Yeah, no, I think there were multiple moments where I realized that the frustration,
Yeah,
sadness, and the squandered potential,
yeah,
that pain started to perhaps exceed the short-term pain or short-term discomfort that I would have experienced by putting myself out there. And I
yeah,
believe that is roughly the time when I moved to, to, to Montreal for university when I was 18. I still remember thinking, this is it. I'm going to move to a new country and everything is going to change instantly. I got to Montreal and I still remember in my second year in university, I had begged professors to exempt me from all of my presentations. And I believe after I kept on avoiding and avoiding and avoiding and becoming more and more painfully aware of all of the potential that I was squandering, that is perhaps the period when I started to take some initial steps.
yeah. So it was like a slowly inclusive journey that started off. Not like I said, there was not a trigger. It was like a whole experience, a whole journey. But the thing is, like the differentiative factor about you is that you did not work around the stuttering thing. You just like put it there. Like, okay, I stutter. I just do it when I speak. So this is just such a bold and awesome statement. So like, how did you? This is my point where stuttering is your superpower. The thing is that you did not try to hide it. You just like put it up there and you used it. You didn't even use it. Like this is you, and that's it. That was it. How did all of this come to happen?
That's a great question. I spent most of my life hiding it. And the best way to hide a stutter, by the way, is, what do you think?
Not to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're only gonna stutter if you speak.
Yeah. So I was in some cases successfully hiding my stutter, but this meant I would not speak. I would not express myself, because why engage the world when I could hide in the isolating yet comforting cocoon of my own silence?
Yeah.
And that's how I lived for most of my life. And when I say most of my life, I'm not saying that the journey is over. It's an ongoing journey of growth. But I agree with you that a big part of the transformation was precisely about changing my relationship with the obstacle, with the fear, with the discomfort, and with the stutter. And because the obstacle felt so radical at times, I knew that the solution would have to be equally or proportionally radical.
Yeah.
And that's why things like stand-up comedy and public speaking emerged as the unlikely and yet very effective strategies for no longer hiding away from who I am.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And like you chose maybe the most illogical or uncommon thing to do as a solution to your, as you said, radical obstacle. I want to kind of dig into your brain now and like, you know, public speaking is one of the most feared things in the world. Some people are afraid of public speaking more than they are afraid of drowning, for example. So there is this kind of stress or energy that goes through every person when they want to speak publicly. But you have a radical obstacle, as you said. So it doubles down maybe the stress or the pressure that you feel before going on stage, going in front of people. So walk me through your mental process before going on stage, before speaking. Maybe the first few times up until now, how did it change?
The first few times were
a disaster, I think. I think that they were a disaster.
On stage, they objectively went well, but the emotional experience was, as you said, a disaster in the sense that I was absolutely terrified. And the first time I was going to share my story on a stage that was not Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, for those who don't know, is an international organization where people can practice public speaking. And that was one of the first steps I had taken on my journey. But besides that, the first time I delivered a speech in front of an audience, it was roughly 100 people, and I was going to share my story for the first time. I still remember that day. I thought about canceling the event multiple times. And something happened when I was delivering my TEDx talk a few months after that. I would go to the mall to practice, and that's an exercise I would do before the pandemic. I look forward to being able to do it again soon. But how this worked is I would go to the mall and challenge myself by talking to 100 complete strangers.
You go up to every individual one by one?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Or groups.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
So
what do you talk about?
in some cases, I would ask them for directions. In some cases, I would just say, excuse me, I have a stutter, and today I am working on it by introducing myself to as many strangers as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And on the week of that first TEDx talk, I recall being so afraid and excited at the same time that a few days before I went to the mall, and I must have practiced talking to 200 people that day. I stayed at the mall for 8 hours, and that was one of my warm-ups, which I then did repeatedly before a lot of my talks.
This is a crazy strategy, actually. And how did the people perceive it? Did you get any like weird reactions, or maybe like they tried to walk away, or were they all welcoming?
It's a very insightful question, because it was an assortment of those reactions. So some people were super patient and positive.
Yeah.
Others were neutral. Some people walked away. Some people would laugh as I would get stuck on the words.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I gained from every reaction, because the good reactions were obviously encouraging and empowering. The neutral one were good practice, and the negative ones,
they bring out the resilience, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were at times the most effective in terms of desensitization, in terms of desensitizing myself to the worst case. The worst case scenarios.
That's true. But actually, like, in the moment itself, it's like a make it or break it. You feel like, okay, I'm gonna stop, this is not working, someone just walked away. But the mental process that you go through, and like, okay, no, this guy walked away, I'm gonna go up to another, and and whatever happens. I think this embodies resilience, in people.
And this is actually sorry to interrupt, but I'm surprised.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
I'm surprised you said this, because that is exactly what would happen. I'd be at the mall, and say I would have approached some groups that included multiple individuals who were laughing hysterically.
Yeah. This would give you a very easy opportunity to just leave and stop doing whatever you're doing.
And I would get those thoughts. I still remember that the day that I talked to 200 people, the reason why I didn't stop at 100 that day is because I kept on getting negative reactions. And at some point, I stood in the corner and I said, okay, this is not working, man. I don't want to be doing this. I should just go home, buy some Haagen-Dazs, binge watch Netflix, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? And then a part of me just knew that no, you have to stay at the mall until you feel like you are once again on top of the challenge.
Yeah, yeah, and this is easier said than done, you know. And I obviously cannot relate, but I know that it gets very easy to quit. It gets very easy to quit. But when you mentally decide that you're not going to quit and actually take action and implement this thought process, you can see a lot of results there. And
and
yeah,
if someone quits one time, but then goes back, then they have not quit. So
yeah,
there are days. Obviously, it's going to be ups and downs. That's just the nature of life. And when you said it's easier said than done, I was thinking actually for me nothing is easier said than done.
like literally.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the stand-up thing. Was it on purpose, or like, okay, I think I'm a funny guy as well, so let's just do it? Was it a choice?
It was a choice more so for self acceptance
Yeah,
and therapeutic purposes. So I would realize when I would go to, for example, an event like a social event, and I'd be meeting new people. I noticed that when I would acknowledge the stuttering through a joke,
yeah,
that would instantly transform the interpersonal dynamics. Everyone would relax. I would relax because I've addressed the elephant in the
in the room.
room.
Yeah,
They relax because they now understand why I sound this way. So I would say something like, "Hi, my name is Joze, and by the way, I am not completely drunk or anything. I just have a stutter." And
yeah,
I had picked up on the fact that, hey, there is something to it. And it wasn't a few years after that that I officially started experimenting with actual stand-up comedy. At first, more so as an after work hobby, but then things evolved unexpectedly.
yeah, yeah. I understand. And you know, you chose the hardest career possible, man. I still I still cannot process it. You know, speaking by itself is hard, man. What you're doing, like, it makes people who like nag about speaking, and no, I'm terrified and so on, and like they see you like, damn, man, I should go for it. But the talking to people in the mall, can it be applied to anyone? Can anyone practice this way? Or maybe talking to people anywhere in public before a certain speaking event?
So I think a few things maybe that I'll 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 recommend as mental prep before public speaking. One of them is to find a way to warm up with social interaction. It
Yeah,
might be asking for some directions. It might be calling a few people. That in itself, I believe, does impact our confidence and momentum.
Yeah.
I also meditate every morning, and if I have a talk, I definitely will meditate as well. I'll do a short meditation before that talk. I have
Yeah.
a bunch of them on my Spotify or on YouTube. I'll go sit in a corner and I'll do a brief meditation. I also believe in the power of rehearsal. When I have talks, I'll sometimes incorporate my rehearsals into walks. So I'll go for a walk and I'll put my AirPods or my earphones on so that I don't look insane when I am speaking to myself.
Yeah.
But I find that there is something about movement as we rehearse that is super effective.
Yeah. And Jose, as a last question to this podcast, I wanted to ask you, was there a time, I think there was, we all passed through these, like when, let's say you've been doing this for 4 to 6 years approximately, was there a time where you thought, okay, I think I'm gonna quit on everything and gonna just give up? And like you had this moment of, okay, do I continue with this or do I stop? And how did you get over it if this was the case? Maybe after a certain event or a certain rejection of some way.
Yeah. I still remember this one event. I was doing a comedy show in Toronto that had a weird concept.
Yeah.
You would go on stage and if the audience was no longer liking your material, they could boo you off the stage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And basically you would have to see how many minutes were you able to go up on stage before you got booed. And I remember that day I had gone, I do my material, and at some point this one guy starts booing and he yells, "Boo, the way that you speak is making my brain hurt."
Yeah.
And obviously this wasn't booing
It was more
to the
personal.
material.
Yeah.
It was more personal. And I still remember after the event, I went back home and I still remember feeling all of these past emotions from high school and from social events and from all of these times.
Brings it back all at once. Yeah.
And I had written a post about it on Facebook to basically share that experience.
Yeah.
And now, luckily, I was booked to do a different comedy show the next day at the same exact venue.
With the same concept?
No. So this was not the same concept. And I still recall that day thinking, maybe I should not show up. But the fact that I did show up and I performed, it felt like I had regained control over that minor setback. And that has been the theme of this journey has been that fluctuations are a reality. And it's really all about, as I said earlier, accepting that change happens through millions of micro moments of bravery. And the more we act in spite of fear and discomfort, the more we start acting because of fear and discomfort, by associating those emotions with action.
Yeah, this is beautiful, man. This is truly inspiring. And before concluding the podcast, I just want you to share maybe a piece of advice for people who may be dealing with the personal issues, personal obstacles, maybe similar to you, maybe something different, and that are people who are trying to hide it or maybe work around it. Like, how can you tell them to just, like, as I told you, just put it up there and just go through life?
If I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, and this applies to when I say younger self, it doesn't mean that the advice is only relevant to young people.
Yeah.
It just means myself before the transformation, which can happen at any age. So the first thing would be, it's okay to be different. Own what makes you unique.
Yeah.
2, use fear as a compass that will guide you where you need to go. Everyone has a stutter. At the end of the day, it's that inner stutter, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of success.
Yeah.
And the best way out of that inner stutter is through that inner stutter. So the third thing is, once you've identified this, to do the thing that scares you again and again and again until you start understanding and believing that fear and action are not mutually exclusive. Fear and action can coexist.
Wow. Jose, these are beautiful words, I think, and I'm gonna take it as a clip actually and post it as a post this last 2 minutes. So with that, Jose, I want to really tell you thank you. Thank you for giving me the time. I know you're in Canada right now. There's a big time difference between us, and for giving us the time, my community, to share your story, because I actually thought it would be very interesting and I wanted to get to know you. I was really curious about you at first, and now I see you're such an inspiring man, such an inspiring story. To see what you went through, what you're still going through, and how you're managing to just again go through life as if it was nothing. It's your superpower. I'm still saying it, and I wanted to tell people to check out Jose's Insta, but you obviously have seen it due to his background, in all the video. So again, guys, if you want to check out Jose, maybe connect with him as well, you can check his Instagram, his LinkedIn. It will all be linked in the description as well. Jose, I want to tell you thank you again for being on this podcast, and hopefully we'll do some other cool stuff in the near future.
Thank you, Jean, for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully the next time that we speak, our beloved country will be under better circumstances.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Okay, have a great night, man. Have a great rest of the night or day. I don't know. Okay, see you.